Peter, I want to get right to it because you had so much great stuff in Monday's Football Morning in America, looking back at the draft, a lot of the movement in round one, a lot of the decisions made in round one. And I want to start at the top. The pick that the Cardinals tried to keep as secret for as long as they possibly could. We all knew they were taking Kyler Murray, but it's still a fascinating story that when you take Josh Rosen at number 10 last year, trade up to get Josh Rosen, you're done with him after 1 year, and you go with Kyler Murray. What did you learn speaking to GM Steve Keim and Coach Cliff Kingsbury about that decision to go franchise quarterback 1 year after Keim tried to go franchise quarterback?
I think, Keim still insists, Mike, to this day that he would have kept Josh Rosen. But Josh Rosen knew what was going to happen. And he knew it a day before the draft. He was walking through the Cardinals practice facility, because he was there every day. He was walking through the Cardinals practice facility. He passed Michael Bidwell in the hallway, and Michael Bidwell, according to Rosen, would not look at him. And so, he basically said, well, I know what's going on now.
Right.
They're gonna pick Kyler Murray, and they're going to trade me. But I think the interesting part about the trade, Mike, is until the Arizona Cardinals really got down to what I call nut cutting time, late in the, after they picked Kyler Murray, they did not engage the Miami Dolphins and general manager Chris Greer until after they made the pick. And I believe part of that is due to the fact that they were trying to keep everything such a secret for so long. Part of that is because the NFL wanted a TV show. Part of it is because they knew that the value for Kyler Murray or for Josh Rosen was going to plummet as soon as they let it be known out in the world that they were trying to trade him. So to me, Steve Keim was in virtually a no-win situation. And I don't think he did bad in getting a 5 in 2020 and the 62nd pick here. But as I said in my story, Mike, imagine the pressure on this receiver, Andy Isabella, basically being the guy who cost the Arizona Cardinals last year 3 draft choices. And then this year, obviously, they have to trade Rosen. And so they got to use the 62nd pick in the draft on this UMass slot receiver. I mean, he better catch about 138 balls this year to make it worth the Arizona Cardinals' while.
Well, Peter, this is where I'm interested in this scenario. I mean, they take Kyler Murray at 1. We knew Cliff Kingsbury had a love affair with Kyler Murray, or at least we thought so. How much influence do you think Kingsbury had in this conversation and ultimately drafting Kyler Murray?
Well, Kingsbury clearly wanted Kyler Murray, and he voiced that to Steve Keim and Michael Bidwell. But according to both Bidwell according to both Keim and Kingsbury, Kingsbury never became either annoying or demanding about this. And I asked him point blank, what if Steve Keim says to you, hey, listen, we think you can make Josh Rosen better, and we're going to take whoever, Quinnen Williams, Nick Bosa. And he would have said, and Kingsbury looked at me and he goes, I would have told him, basically, let's go to work. I don't have any juice to come in and demand who we make the first pick in the draft. And it goes without saying, he's 5 under 500 at Texas Tech.
Right.
He gets fired last year midseason at Texas Tech. So I think he was adamant with me. He said he never said at the scouting combine that it was a done deal that they were taking Kyler Murray. So look, I know what everybody in the football world thinks. Everybody thinks that the fix was in for Kyler Murray the day that Cliff Kingsbury got hired. The general manager and Kingsbury himself adamantly denied that to me.
But here's the thing, Peter, and this was a great point you made about the Cardinals keeping their cards so close to the vest for as long as they did, to the point where it undermined their ability to maximize their value for Josh Rosen, because they didn't even begin to try in earnest to trade him until after they took Kyler Murray and the value was beginning to plummet. I used to always love the Paul Harvey and now you know the rest of the story. I think there's the rest of a story here on the back end. I think the Cardinals got something, whether it's another Super Bowl, whether it's they got something from the league for keeping their mouths shut and not trying to trade Josh Rosen when they could have traded him in March. They could have traded him before the start of the offseason program. They could have put him on the market, but it would have been clear the moment they did that Kyler Murray's their guy. And who cares if everyone knows Kyler Murray's their guy? They run the board with the first overall pick. I just want to know what the quid pro quo was here for the Cardinals to undermine their strategic interests and keep their mouths shut beyond the point where they could have gotten more for Josh Rosen.
I mean, we'll find out over time. Did the at the time, the St. Louis Rams, did they get anything for the favor of drafting Michael Sam late in the 7th round instead of Michael Sam being a free agent? If so, I don't know what it is. And it might.
They're in L.A. They got the L.A. Stadium deal when the Chargers and the Raiders had the competing project in Carson. So I think it worked out pretty well for the Rams to play ball with the league office.
I mean, Mike. If you think agreeing to draft Michael Sam 250th overall was traded for the ability to move to L.A. and get that stadium, you're out of your mind.
Well, I guess my point is,
we know that.
We know that. When you're trying to move to L.A., every little bit helps.
Yeah. But Mike, I'll just say I'll say one thing about this whole thing, because somebody out in Arizona on Saturday, after I had finished with Keim and Kingsbury, said, "Well, okay, what would you have done, if you were Steve Keim?" And I said, here's exactly what I would have done. I would have called the Miami Dolphins, the New York Giants, and I would have called Washington's Bruce Allen, and I would have said about an hour before the draft, and I would have said to all of them, okay, make me your best offer 1 hour from now for Josh Rosen. And whoever gives me the best offer, we're parceling this out. Whoever wants to make an offer for Josh Rosen, give me your best offer. Because at that point, okay, so maybe the secret gets out then, but at least you're now competing. Because I know, Mike, the New York Giants had some interest in Josh Rosen. Would it have been enough for them to not draft Daniel Jones?
Right.
I don't know the answer to that, but I do know the Giants had some interest. Obviously, Miami had some interest, and I don't really know about Washington. But I think that would have given them the chance. By the time it's after their pick, the Giants are already locked and loaded on Daniel Jones. And I think then it's a one-team market. You got Dan Snyder. He wants Haskins by then. I don't know if it would have changed.
Right.
But I think it would have given them at least a better chance.
Okay, here's another thing I'm fascinated by this, just because I feel like it's rare. Maybe you don't have the answer to this, Peter, but you usually have answers to a lot of things because I know you know a lot of people. Usually with the first pick of the draft, we hear about other teams who were hot on the guy as well. I thought it was very weird this year where we didn't hear about teams who also were in love with Kyler Murray. I'm just interested, and again, maybe you don't know, but if Arizona doesn't take Kyler Murray, what other teams did you know or hear out there that might have been interested in him?
Chris, I think that is an excellent point. Although Steve Keim spent about 10 minutes with me, and I didn't write this, but he spent a good deal of time with me telling me his calls around the league in the last couple of months and talking to his peers. These guys just loved Kyler Murray, and I'm not saying that they didn't.
Right.
There's a difference between loving him and maybe picking him.
Yeah.
Whereas a year ago, Chris, do you remember a year ago, Peter Schrager reported this on the night of the draft a year ago, that Josh McDaniels, the offensive coordinator of the Patriots, spent Monday before the draft with Baker Mayfield at his home in Austin, Texas.
Right.
And so the Patriots really were interested in Baker Mayfield. And if he had dropped down, if it was 7, 8, 9, 10, and Baker Mayfield was still on the board, I believe to this day the Patriots would have aggressively gone after Baker Mayfield last year and tried to trade up to get him. But the fact is, this year, I mean, I don't know this, but it sure doesn't sound like the Patriots liked anybody, any of these top quarterbacks, and certainly not Kyler Murray.
Right.
And I think this was a case that some of the teams that truly loved Kyler Murray, like John Gruden,
right,
who really loved Kyler Murray, like Sean McVay, who really loved Kyler Murray, they were not in a position to either draft or trade to get in position to take Kyler Murray.
Right.
Now, what would have happened if the Cardinals passed on him? I don't know what would have happened, but he might have gone into a free fall. I just don't know.
Yeah, I was told Friday that it quite possibly would have been him instead of Dwayne Haskins to Washington at 15. If he gets past John Gruden at number 4, that would have been the key.
Right.
Getting past Gruden there. And then you have to factor in the possibility that somebody would try to cut the line in front of Washington, because it would have been obvious they'd have interest in him if he's available at number 15. So somebody jumps up to number 14 to try to get him that way. But you know, just like, because Peter, I firmly believe that if Kyler Murray had decided to play baseball, Dwayne Haskins is the guy we would have been talking about before the draft as the best quarterback, the best prospect, the best potential franchise player. But Kyler Murray sucked all the oxygen out of the room once he decided to play football instead of baseball. And, you know, maybe that's ultimately what would have occurred. We would have had Haskins go to Arizona, and who knows what would have happened after that. We've lost Peter temporarily. We'll try to get him back. This may be a good spot to take a break.
Yeah, it's about that time.
We're going to take a quick break here, and we'll try to get Peter back. And when we return, we will be talking about John Elway and the strong feelings he has for Joe Flacco, even though he drafted Drew Lock in round 2 on Friday. More PFT Live right after this.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.